Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Welcome to this new iteration of the Gaia-X webinar series. Today, we have a special focus on media data space. I'm Youngmi, the events manager at Gaia-X, and I'm thrilled to be your host for this session. In the next couple of minutes, we will have the opportunity to hear from some of the leading experts in their fields and to explore some of the latest developments and best practices related to media data space. During the webinar, we encourage you to engage in meaningful discussions and to exchange ideas with each other. So I invite you to ask questions and to share your insights in the chat or the Q&A box, or raise your virtual hand. We hope that by the end of this webinar, you will have gained valuable insights and practical takeaways that you can apply immediately. So without further ado, let's get started. And I would like to call Francesco Bonfiglio, CEO of Gaia-X, to start with the welcome introduction.
Hi, good morning. Thanks, Yomi, and good morning, everybody. So it's a real pleasure for me to be here, like in any data space event. So I wanted to share with you in a few minutes a key messages that I hope will be helpful for today. And the first is about what are these types of events about. So why we hold these specific data space events. What is the expectation? What is the opportunity around them? The second is why I believe the media data space is particularly important nowadays for Europe and beyond. And last but not least, a few words about the state of play or the state of the union of Gaia-X. So, given we are in the media data space, just a simple check. Can you hear me and see me? Say yes, anybody? All yes. Right. You never know. That would be quite embarrassing. So why we're here today? You know that Gaia-X is trying to put together the two halves of the X. The top side of the X is creating common data spaces. What that means in simple words is enabling the creation of a federated model where all the participants in any specific value chain, and here we're talking about the media, can freely and safely share the data, not for the sake of it, but because without sharing the data one another, it is impossible to derive the value that everybody in the value chain needs in order to build better product, improve the processes, or new products based on data, services, or products. And the second part of the X, the lower half of the X, is about creating federated infrastructures which are trustworthy and can be used to enable these common data spaces, these safe, secure data sharing that enables the common data spaces. Now, to do that, we can face the problem from many different perspective, the technology perspective, and of course we do that. I remind everybody we're going to have the first technical conference of Gaia-X in Bilbao in just a few weeks, and there's a lot of work that we are doing on the technology side. But I would lie if I would tell you that the most important thing to build common data spaces does not stand in the technology side. It stands on the business side. And it stands on the business side because you have to be capable to understand why sharing the data provides a value, why sharing the data in a new, unprecedented, trustworthy environment can improve your existing business and enable new business, why this can be necessary to build better trust in your end customers, for example, in the media space. So having this type of events helps creating the community of media today around the same problems to find possibly ideas for solutions. And the expectation is that this community around the media, and there's a lot of participants in the Gaia-X constituency, a lot of members that work in the media space, The expectation is that you come out with ideas on how to solve common problems you all have, thanks to the adoption of the Gaia-X framework. Second point is why I believe media is so important in these days, and not just in these days. Well, we talk about data. Well, media is all about data. It goes without saying that I should not explain to you that your core business is around data. Information is data. But even in information technology, in engineering terms, there is a strong difference between information and data. Basically, data are nothing without information. And I think you in the media space understand exactly what I mean, because this is exactly true in your business. You convey information, but the way you convey information is based on data sources. And the way these data sources are interpreted is crucial in order to convey the right information. So fake news, unreliable news, creating a trusted relationship between your spectators or your readers and you as a source of information is crucial in a day where data is everywhere and information can easily be faked up and invented and generated. Let's talk about ChatGPT that everybody of you, I'm sure, have been playing with. So let's face the reality. We are living in a time where data and information, and I would add on top of these two layers, reality, are totally disconnected. And therefore, your business can be at jeopardy unless you don't find a way to show that the information you convey is real, is reliable, is trustworthy, and is built on top of reliable and trustworthy data sources. This, again, cannot be fixed by the technology, but can be helped a lot by technology, providing the level of trustworthiness that Gaia-X is implementing through its set of rules and its technology stack that allows the, let me say, automated verification of those rules. And I think in the media space, this could make an incredible impact. So creating a project to federate some media providers to convey information which is based on trusted data sources, which are trusted because the source of data, the source of information is recognized, is traced, is described inside the Gaia-X framework in a way that you can always tell where that information comes from. It's not just a technological thing. It can be really a business impact in your specific domain. And I wanted to stimulate your brilliant minds around this potential that I see. The last point I wanted to touch base in the last couple of minutes is the state of play of Gaia-X. You might have heard me already talking about it, so I would not spend half an hour, don't worry. But in a couple of minutes, when I joined in 2021, and that was not the beginning of Gaia-X, because to be honest, the first idea came in late 2019 from France and Germany. It was a Franco-German government project, but then it was transformed in the course of 2020 as an international association, but physically, the ASBL, l'Association Internationale Sans But Lucratif, was founded in 2021. That's when I joined, and I made a 5-year plan. And still we are walking the talk. The 5-year plan said, in 21, we define what Gaia-X is. And this is described in the specification you can find on our website. In 22, we start developing it. And this is again available on our website, but there's a lot more behind the scenes, because in 23, we start, let me say, focusing on the market growth. So we are deploying as we speak. I mean, this week we will be, or actually the next week, we will be announcing the first deployment of the first services for Gaia-X compliance. We call them the Gaia-X digital clearing houses. We will start with 2 nodes across Europe, which are running these, let me say, compliance services. But this is the beginning of a roadmap through which by the end of the year, we will have possibly already maybe less than 10, maybe 10 nodes across Europe. We already have a pipeline of roughly 10 candidates that want to run these nodes of verification of Gaia-X compliance. What this will trigger is incredible. We have a pipeline of 1,500 services provided by more than 30 technology providers, cloud service providers in particular, you can imagine, ready to be published as Gaia-X compliant. So we will fire in the next months these first catalog of Gaia-X compliant services, where you will see this catalog being populated more and more by technology providers that are ready to provide Gaia-X compliant services. We already have 11 lighthouse projects that each one grouped together more than 10 participants in a specific value chain. We have automotive, we have industry, we have agri-food, we have mobility, tourism. I hope, and it was my hope since last year, I'm going to see soon a lighthouse project around media. And I've been talking to EBU, which I know is going to be one of the speakers, and I hope that you will soon do that. And I'm very open to welcome the first lighthouse projects on building a common media data space in Europe. But if you put all these things together, we're going to end this year with incredible results. First of all, Gaia-X will be real and everybody can become Gaia-X compliant. Second, we're going to have real projects that are showing in the market what is the advantage of building common data spaces. And this is already creating an incredible impact on the real economy. You can imagine that Catena X and the coming Manufacturing X, which is an extension to all manufacturing sector, is grouping hundreds of companies for billions of revenues for each of one of them. So if they are investing in that, we are creating a real impact on the real European economy. We are creating an impact on the real European GDP. And we will have what I call the snowball effect. So we will start showing that an alternative, a European alternative to data infrastructures, a European alternative to data economy is possible, is necessary, and Europe is ready to, let me say, ride the wave. So we are creating this wave. I hope you're going to ride the wave also from the media data space point of view. And like I said before, I'm really looking forward to see by the end of this year, this is my homework for you, the first lighthouse projects around media data space being fired. That I would be extremely happy, because maybe you don't know, but in my long career, I've been working in the media data space as well, and in the media business as well for a long time. So I know it quite well, and I know the kind of effect a project in the media data space can produce on the citizens, not just on the business, because your end customers are people like me and everybody of you. So it's a tangible effect. I'm really looking forward. I will shut my mouth, and I hope this was useful. You know, you can reach out to me anytime, and I would be happy to know about the outcomes of this fantastic event today. Thank you, and floor is back to you, Yomi.
Thank you, Francesco, for setting the tone with this stimulating introduction. And now I'll pass the floor to our moderator, Lucille Verbaere, who is the Cloud and Cybersecurity Senior Project Manager, Technology and Innovation at EBU.
Hi, hello everybody. Welcome. So yeah, as Youngmi said, I'm working at the European Broadcast Union here in Geneva, and we represent the public sector media. So I'm really happy to moderate this session today. The objective is really to go through the current challenges we have in the media industry. We will talk about digitalization with AI, of course. I was betting on how long it will take to wait for the first time we mentioned ChatGPT. So Francesco, you did it. Well done. And we will also talk about how data space can help and what are the key use cases. And then in the second part, we'll have different presentation on various projects that relates to data space and that are already taking place here in Europe. But first, let me introduce Hans Hoffmann, Head of Media Fundamentals and Production Technologies at EBU. So Hans, you will talk about public sector media and why EBU is promoting so strongly the media data space.
Thank you, Lucille. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I see we have in the attendee list, we have a very global attendance. So I don't know exactly where you are in your time zone. So a very warm welcome also from my side, and thank you to Sil for the introduction. Let me just share my screen quickly. And then you should be able to see this PowerPoint in front of you, just to reconfirm that. It's entitled The EBU Approach to Media Data Spaces, and normally you should have expected Antonio Archidiacono here at this moment, the director of our Technology and Innovation Department. Unfortunately, he got a little bit sick, so he passed the ball on to me, and I hope I can do also a good job in giving you a bit of an insight on our approach on media data spaces, but also on our expectations in the future, but also what we have concretely done in terms of developments. For those who don't know, the European Broadcasting Union is the largest professional association of public service media organizations. And we are concentrating, of course, on Europe, but we also have members in North Africa. We have associated members around the globe, such as Asia, even Australia, the North America area, and so forth. In total, we have 113 broadcasting organizations, which are actually the members. Whenever we talk about members, we mean actually these broadcasters who are the founders and the shareholders of the EBU. As said, we are a non-for-profit organization, and we represent and work also according to the values of public service media. So how does this all fit to this notion of media data spaces? We, of course, recognize the work, what you have done, and the guiding principles of the data space approach. And for us in this context, as you can imagine, as the world is moving to be hyper interconnected, that our audiences are connected via smartphones, any IP devices on a constant level with social media, but also with traditional media, it is very important for us that we are represented to our citizens, which the public service media has to serve according to the values. For us, it's really important that we have data sovereignty, that we provide objective, non-biased informations, news in particular, to the citizens in order to help them to formulate an educated opinion, for example, about what is going on in the world. Secondly, entertainment is also not to be neglected. And of course, the culture approach, what also every public service media organization has as one of their value-driven activities. Trust in information is key for us, and trust in the institutions of public service media, for that reason, has to be endorsed by all the activities what also you, according to the data space design principles, inherit. One of these elements is not only that we talk about the content itself, but also on how interoperability is achieved between systems. And this requires certainly work in standardization. It requires work in agreements. We have done some initial work also with SMPT and other organizations in defining vocabularies, ontologies. We do a lot of work on behalf of our members in defining interoperability points with recommendations in a variety of areas. So the exchange of content between the organizations is also of utmost importance for us. Hence, again, the circle closest to this very nice diagram, what you have defined here, which reaches from data control to interconnectivity, interoperability, and up then to the audiences. So what are the key roles of the European Broadcasting Union? What we think which can be of value, similar like in other activities, what we run is that we have a consensus representation of our requirements and to help defining the specifications. The combined power, the industrial power or investment power of 113 broadcasters is huge. And history has shown that with this combined and consensus power, we were able to drive industries. And this is critically important in order to have the requirements, what we define, also then represented in specification standards and finally in products which come to the market. We have expertise in a variety of areas. What you see on the slide is an example on vocabulary, on data models. we have developed a metadata exchange format, which is called EBO Core Plus. And by the way, all the information what we have here on the slide is available via our website, pretty much is in public domain. We contribute to EBO innovations. We have actually built products such as a recommender system, Eurobox, and a news pilot system, which I will introduce in a second live. And we bridge, of course, with other projects of the European Union. European perspective is one, Vera AI, verification tools. Stadium is another EU-funded project, which looks after bridging and helping startup companies. And then, of course, it's all about sharing the knowledge and disseminating and promoting the work, what we do, but also the work, what is going on in the data space for adoption by media organizations. And I think here, in particular, in this context, there's a lot of education still to be done so that stakeholders, that key decision makers amongst the media organizations understand and support the relevance of the activity, what you have started, what we together have started. So just a couple of further thoughts on the trusted European media data space use cases, what we have, and I don't go into all of the details in view of time. It pretty much has around the topic of news exchange and fact checking, which is an important area for us, as you can imagine. Then the use of audience data in a very trusted and confident way in order to drive personalization and recommendation engines. There might be also needs for additional revenue streams, which we can be supported through this. We have the collaboration and the activities in the production chain from a story idea through the whole media creation process until to the distribution point. And the distribution can be via linear, non-linear, anyway, and also the handling of the digital rights. And then, of course, it is this continuous way of innovating and being ahead, or at least being on the same level as the big West Coast companies when it is about new media formats which produce more immersive media and the virtualization in the production domain and so forth, and the convergence, what we already have seen between the gaming industries and traditional media in order to generate, at the end of the day, new story formats for any type of end device. This is a little bit the approach what we have in the variety of themes which can be, for example, identified as relevant for the media data space activities and the use cases. So perhaps enough of talking, and I would just demo 2 or 3 examples of work what we already have done, which can be associated to a media data space. One of the activities what we do run very successfully is actually a product which is deployed. This product has been developed by our software engineering team, which is led by Sebastian Noir, and there's a bunch of very nice developers around it, also together with EBO members and our news people. As you are aware, the exchange of content is pretty important between EBO members. And you see here, for example, a selection of logos and shorthands. These are the EBO members who take part in a project which is called the EBO News Pilot. So you see here the newsrooms interconnected via this tool. And what you see on the left-hand side in this column here is the participating members. You see what news have been generated over the last time frames, for example, last 24 hours, last 48 hours, or all. And the purpose is that you provide the journalist a mean to access news, to translate news to the language you need, and then to use this in your own broadcast channels. This is pretty important, that it works fast, that it works actually reliable for a journalist, and it also supports, and this is the trick on it, a variety of different languages. And here, of course, the means of data spaces come into the game. To demonstrate this just quickly, we have incoming news here, and I just pick one. Very typical. Ukraine is a top theme, of course, for any of the broadcasters at the moment. And of course, I have to spell it correctly. And the most recent news is coming in from Deutsche Welle, which is one of the broadcasters we have. We have the original languages displayed here, and we could also run, if we want to have the news item, we can see the details. And now imagine another broadcaster which is connected to the system would like to have the news in a different language. The system is able to translate in a variety of other languages. I can also add a new language, as you see here, from the original one to a new language, and I can use different models for it. We use here a tool which is called Eurovox, and this tool is empowering a variety of translation machines, what we can use. It is the typical ones such as AWS, it is a number of others, Google, Azure, just name them. And then these tools would allow the translation. And you can, of course, then make it available in the translated language to the news journalists to pick it up. We all know that these systems are more or less reliable. So you can do also edits of the translation and can start actually working if you detect an error in the translation. And then generate, you see here side by side a difference of languages, which we have actually prepared. And then the journalist can quickly verify the translated story and can generate actually a new version of it. As we have mentioned before, the tool is very rich, and I know I'm running almost out of time. Just to go to the Eurovox product, which is also developed, which is the underlying mechanism for the translation tools. I've prepared here a short clip, which I've uploaded already to the system. We can always prepare and run the clip. It goes quite quickly. It's just a simple file which I've uploaded, which is the history of the Eurovision network, by the way.
1970s.
So we can do actually here a transcript, and we can then translate the transcript by a variety of different machines, as I explained before. I've done this in preparation here already. You see the original transcript in English, and I have used Azure in this case to translate it to German. And in case there is something wrong, then I can immediately start also editing and verifying and changing the translated product. And of course, we can also allow then to use the machines, the artificial intelligence, so to say, in order to play also the translated media. It can be also subtitled in a variety of languages, but also we can use the tools and have an artificial voice to speak in the translated language. I stop here because I see I'm running out of time. But just I hope this gave you a little bit of an insight on the activities of what we already have started in the EBU in order to support kind of media data spaces. And this is also one of the evidences why the work of what you do is so visionary and so critically important for us in the EBU. And that's one of the reasons why we would like to take a leading part in the activities, particularly related to media. And with this, I thank you and hand over back to Lucille.
Thank you, Hans. So yeah, if there are any questions, you can post them in the Q&A and we'll try to answer them. I saw there were a couple of questions, but I think Francesco answered it, so I think we are fine. Just let me know by the Q&A if you have any others. Okay, so let's move to the next part of our events. And so we have now a panel discussion, and let me welcome the panelists. So the first is Juliette. Juliette Prissard is a general delegate at Eurocinema, representing the film producers. We have Verena Krawarik, head of innovation at the Austrian press agency. Welcome, Verena. We have Martin Fröhlich, who is director of digital revenue network at WAN-IFRA, which is the World Association of News Publishers. And last is Mariano Minoli, who is head of data and analytics at Hiberus, which is the technology division of Eneo, NEO, which is a top 3 media group in Spain. So welcome all four. So we've seen, of course, media are going through huge transformation these days, going from linear to customer-centric, from one single distribution channel to many, and now, of course, facing big competition from the big platforms and the social media. So what are the main challenges, according to you, today for the media industry? Who wants to start?
I can, if you want. Okay, hello. So thank you very much for inviting me to this panel. I'm very honored. Yes, I represent French producers, audiovisual and film producers. I've been around for a while, and I remember the time when, when we would fight against piracy. It would be a matter of DVDs sold in the subway and things like that. So now, of course, it's a remote time, and when we fight against piracy, we need to have access to. We need to have good identifiers, good metadata, so that we will make sure that our works that we are protecting are very well identified. So that's the first thing that is essential to us, is to have good metadata and good identifiers, so that we can make the difference between what is pirated and what is not. I would also say that now that the data is something that is being sold on the internet in general, and all the Netflix and all the streamers and all the platforms are using the data. Our data on the work we own are copyrighted, and they need to be traced, and we need to make sure that our heritage, our legacy, it can be valuable, has value and can be sold. So again, we need good metadata, but also we need to be able to commercialize our copyrighted data. That's the second point. Third point is prominence. We have a regulation on that topic, but not only. If we are advocating for good prominence of the European works and our works, French or European, we need to have good information on the data as well. So the metadata is key as well for that purpose. How could we advocate for that point if there is no possibility to have a reliable information on our works? And I would say the third point is audience measurement. Audience measurement is key to us. Before the internet time, we would have information from broadcasters and from cinemas when it's a long feature film of how the film performs. So now that we are online, the information of how the film performed is a black box. We have no information, and it is key to us to have this information. Why so? Because for the career of the artists that we are working with, we need to know if they are well performed, they have well performed or not, and what will be their price on the market for the future films. First, and the second one is the price of our catalog. We have catalogs of films. It is necessary that we sell them at a good price. To know what is their price, we need to know how they performed previously. So yes, of course, for all these reasons, data is key to us today.
Okay. I think I can complement this point of view of Juliette. Of course, this matter regarding audience measurement is very important. We are seeing also in our medias and the medias we are collaborating with. But I would like to perhaps see in a wider point of view. We are seeing the whole industry that is facing two challenges to follow technology changes, but I'm very specific in all days. We are seeing new trends and new technologies. Perhaps today we are talking about ChatGPT, but this is a discussion that we are talking in the last days. But I think we will see a lot of new technologies, and this is very challenges for media organizations today. So and in that sense, I think that this kind of initiatives can help. So at the first time, I'd like to point that is to follow these continuously changes in technology.
So if I may go on, can you hear me? Okay. Wonderful. So yes, I would come back to what Juliette said about audience measurements. We are just doing a big program right here in Brussels this week with a lot of publishers from Europe. And besides all the discussions about AI and copyrights, which we will come back to later, it's audience measurement that's in the focus of most of the companies, because the general basic approach of a print edition has changed to digital approaches about one audience, or most of the times different audiences. So you have to know where to find them, have to know how your content performs, because it's much more difficult to find your audience, to bring in monetization in the digital business than it was in the old print business. I mean, this sounds a bit basic, but that's still the core element of the revenue business most of the publishers are looking for. So a data space that would allow them to share data in certain limitations, to see which topic performs in what way, maybe in my country, in my region, or somewhere else, and why is the topic maybe performing better with someone else, maybe using a different format, maybe using a different strategy and timeline or whatever. This is data that's very important, especially as, of course, the staff capacity, the reporting capacity of companies is limited. So to give it a try every time yourself, just experimenting around, is not the best way for them to do. So they need common data and a basis where they can get an impression which way is the better one to go. And that's completely different from what we have in the old print times. So that's one thing. Audience measurement is very, very important for companies.
Yeah, besides audience measurement, which is a huge topic for us as a news agency as well, is the interesting point, because news agencies are the news backbone of every country, or on international backbone when you look at international news agencies. So we often lack the data of lack of the data how our content is performing to the audience out there, because we are a B2B provider. And there are interesting things, like in every industry, when you are a B2B provider, you have to get a great connection to your customer, but the customer of your customer too. And I think there we are in the data value chain, and we can help each other to get more insights on that. So this would help, because news agencies and newspapers are in that digital publishing topic together. If we can enhance content with metadata that is valuable from an editorial context, but also from an audience context, then the journalists who are producing the content, who are shortening the content, who work with the content, must not work on this topic. And so we have developed some AI tools out there that can describe the content in a better format, like automatic IPTC, media topics, and so on. And there will be a lot of metadata deriving from editorial sources, from editorial knowledge out there in the future, where you can code journalistic knowledge and journalistic values and transfer them into metadata and code. And this is, I think, a very interesting journey we are in, from producing content to produce content that knows as much about itself that you can do, and we should do this wise in sense of audience, in sense of trust. So I think the content out there in the future will have a lot of metadata packed on itself. This is one of the challenges we see to develop the right things out there. There are already some standards out there that has to be implemented and adopted widely by the industry. There are standards out there but we have to use it and to use them. And when it comes to interoperability and to connect content sources from different and various sources, like from TV, from print, from cinema, then you are all that, and we are speaking about that these content formats have to speak to each other, because in platforms like ours, where we have as the biggest media data host in Austria, there all these things and all this stuff comes together and has to be distributed to the B2B customers. And then you are in this game, and you're in this game that these contents have to speak to each other and use the same standards. And it's my plaidoyer today that we adopt standards that are out there also for the licensing models, for the business aspect of this, because formats like RightsML are out there, but almost nobody's using it because nobody already sees the value now in it. But for the future, as one of the major customers of media content will be machines. We have to implement this. We have the audiences, we have the advertisers, and we have the machines. And I think the last game, like it's now me that say, okay, all these AI, LLM models out there are fed by a lot of data from media. So these are our customers today. These are our customers on an international level, and I think we have to find answers for that.
Thanks a lot, all. So we heard about metadata, we heard about a lot of things, different kind of data, but what is really the status today on digitalization? So we know, for example, in the public sector media, perhaps 1/4 of the organizations have really a central data organization, sometimes not implemented yet, but in the pipe. So it's still very low. So what is really the status in your own field or organization in terms of digitalization and how you handle data? Juliette, you want to start?
Fine. Yeah, okay. So as far as that, we're not very in the movie sector. It's kind of a new situation that we have. The data that we don't have we are not very well advanced on this topic. The thing is that we are facing a new situation in the way that since the broadband has arrived in every houses, like 10 years ago, you watch a film from home on your computer. Okay, so that's the brand new thing. But the link with access to data was not very clear at the moment. So now we are facing a new situation where we understand that it is possible with the data to produce new scripts, with the data to produce now even new films, and also very, very efficient visual effects, very, very efficient production programs. So we are kind of starting to understand what are the issues, and that's the reason why Eurocinema has joined the initiative of EBU on that topic with the media data space, because it is important that to be in the game concerning all the data aspects. As for what I've said before, for piracy, for ChatGPT, what as said my colleague is very important, transparency of what is AI generative or not, how to commercialize our our data, copyrighted data. If I take the example of ChatGPT, we are now working on a regulation, which is AI regulation. Eurocinema has pushed for the idea that there must be some transparency, because tomorrow you will be able to make a script at the fashion in the way, same way of Wim Wenders, with the 2 actors in the desert. Please do me a new script, and then the the OpenAI is able to do a new script just out of the blue. The first question that we have is, of course, it is made out of copyrighted data, and no regulation provides that they are supposed to ask for our permission, even though they are supposed to do so, but they are not doing it. Second, it must be transparent that this script is made out of AI, and is very important to us because we have a relationship with artists, and we need to make sure that human production is put ahead instead of I would say synthetic or artificial production. And also now, of course, with algorithms, all the algorithms, and now they are so powerful, are pushing biased cultural films in a way that they are pushing what people expect and not there is no logic of offer anymore. So what about diversity of offer? So we need to take control of what is inside the box. On algorithms, we have some good aspects in the DSA. DSA is providing for information, asking for information to the GAFA on the algorithm, but it's not enough. We need to be able also to check on these topics and maybe to suggest something for the future. How to have a cultural algorithm that is available to the producers, maybe through this media data space. It would be also a good thing. And third, I would say, of course, that if we have the possibility with the data space to go further in the audience measurement and have I would say a good audience measurement that is profitable for everyone and that is fit for purpose for our needs, then that would be a good thing. Yes.
Okay. For complement what Juliette said, I don't know. Let me yes. We think that from the news part of the media industry, the digitalization is already in the industry. We are seeing in all medias, but it's not the way of how the digitalization is being done, and the mature of this adoption. This is the question. This is what we are seeing. As I said earlier, it's been hard for some companies to follow all the new technologies that appear every day, and from this point of view, perhaps it's been harder for smaller companies to digitalize because process of digitalization may be some expensive, and bigger ones are more advanced. And the other thing, from the status point of view, it's important to understand all the other things that are behind these new technologies. I mean, we are talking today about generative AI and ChatGPT and this kind of things, but it's not a question of the technology, because the technology will evolve and it's evolving very, very, very quickly. It's about all the things that are behind this evolution. Okay, and there's a lot of things related to compliance, to AI ethics, and to explain how algorithms are working. There's a lot of things to work here to follow these new technologies, and I think this is a lot of challenges. So there are a lot of challenges regarding this.
Yeah, if I may. Yep. Yeah, if I may contribute to this topic, as we talk a lot to publishers and news publishers in Europe, and we've just a program, as I said, with 24 different companies here, big ones, small ones, mid-sized ones, and the amount of digitalization in the companies is very different. It's very different. We have big players who have big data departments and can use any metrics they want and any AI they want, but a lot of the publishers are still small and mid-sized, and we have some local players who don't even have a data department. So they have just two persons doing everything about the digital things. So you can imagine how big the data question is for them, even as we see that the metrics or the focus in the metrics changes every, let's say, second year. We started one day with reach, and then we came about conversion, and now it's churn. And maybe next year it's something else, like a gamification question or whatever it will be, average view time. And so it's difficult for especially small and mid-sized companies to keep updated and to stay there and to be all the time on the right track. So they would need some support, obviously. Second thing is, again, how do you get these messages that the data gives you into your newsroom? So it's one thing to have a data department that gives you an evaluation, but what to do with it, how to get it into your newsroom, how to make people work on this basis, to make decisions on this basis. It's easy to say, hey, this article performed well, better in the morning than the afternoon. So, but what do I do with this knowledge? So, and the last point is, again, as we are talking about AI a lot more than we had planned because things happened in the last weeks, bigger companies can afford to use AI even to control the landing page and to say, hey, come on, this text is performing well, so we put it way up and others a bit down and others disappear. Most of the smaller companies just don't have that at the moment. Maybe they might have that in 2 or 3 years, but it's manual what they do. So again, they need data and need an efficient way to get to this data. Verena knows that, I'm pretty sure, from all the Austrian companies.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, for us, it's quite interesting because APA started their way into digitization in the 80s by building our first platform. So we are, I would say, within the delivery terms and the protection terms, digital by heart for many years now. And but there's also something you have to crack to do, because you have to work on your business processes. There is a lot of things that we have to do to get these digitized. So this is that you can automate all your business processes and value chains. And the other things, of course, is for us to focus on the right topics in the AI game. So there is a lot of tools out there. There is a lot of things that you can do, and we always do it when we have concrete projects, a lot of research projects around that. Our first step into the AI Act and the upcoming thing that is coming on there was within a research project around AI that can describe our pictures and can detect all the famous people in Austria. This was our first thing, and we decided that we not only dig deeper into what the technology should do and should bring about, but also step into this whole game of what does trustworthy AI mean in a media context. And it was quite a journey, and we published then our AI guidelines, and on our we'll now develop this further with the rise of generative AI, because this is a huge topic. And I always wonder how this AI Act has come so far without being seen by the media industry for a long time. And within the last 3, 4 months, 6 months, the media industry jumped into this topic, because within these generative AI, what they call general purpose AI. And this is an effect. This is very interesting for us, because the regulation stuff coming by the EU is something that we have to manage within the media companies. This is quite new for us. I think the data protection law was the first thing where every media company was flashed by the impact that this law would bring. And I think we have, as a media industry, look a lot deeper in all these regulations that might affect our business than we have done this before. And this is a new thing we do, and this is a new thing for some for all these publishers and organizations, because it's the same topic on that you have not a data office or a data department today in mid-sized companies, but you have not someone who is there, who has all these legal stuff also there. And I think this is a very great challenge for us to bring this in the right thing, to be on the place at the right topics when it comes to regulation. And there will be some game in the future we have to play.
Martin, you want to add something? Yeah.
Yes, I just want to add, this is so important, Verena, especially if you look in the mid and long term. We had an AI expert here in our event this week, and he made a very interesting statement in the end. He said, the future of fact-checking is not to prove that something is not fake, but to prove that something is real. And that was a very good message. I was thinking a lot about this many days, and if he's right, that would mean a completely new approach to all the things you've just described.
For sure.
Thank you. So we heard about what's happening in the media industry, and to do the link with the data space. So a data space is really a place where, thanks to some technical blocks, some governance, we can have trust, we can have data sovereignty, we can have interoperability. So from what you just said, basically how a data space can help. So we talked about AI, of course. So data space could be a place where we can certify the algorithms, control them a bit better, because we are among trusted participants, and we have technical tools that are that can be certified and granted. Then we heard about how can we help smaller companies. So a data space is also a way to share the cost of the or to made available some building blocks that are there to bring trust, again, data sovereignty and so on, and that could be made available at much lower cost for all. Then of course we heard about the regulations with Juliette in particular. So data space could be also a way to make it easier to be compliant with those coming regulations in the context of the Data Act, the DGA, and all that, all those regulations that are currently being discussed. What else? What did I miss?
I might take the floor, and I fully agree with what you have said previously. I would add, yeah, the idea is that our sector, as far as the audiovisual sector is concerned, is that we are composed mainly of SMEs. And then, yes, the idea of mutualizing together and having a common tool is essential, so that we are not out of the game and that we are not following the wheels of others. I would say, I would of course name the main actors of the main platforms as well, but not only. Also, we have groups, audiovisual groups that are being created, and if they go too far ahead from us, then as SMEs, it won't be possible anymore to follow, and then we will lose our independence. So that's for clear, just roughly. And so the idea of mutualizing on that topic is key to us. We need that. But okay, so once we have said that, of course, then after we can imagine everything. We have so many needs, because the thing is that the platforms are inventing so many new things, like, and well, generative AI is the last thing that came out of the box. But before, we were all concentrated on algorithms. We were concentrated on deepfakes. We were concentrating on also a fight against piracy before, and so on. So the thing is that we are spending our times following them to try to catch back what they impose us. So the idea would that maybe that we could get some leverage, a stronger leverage at least, and be able to create our new tools. The thing is that we say, oh, we don't know what it's in the algorithms of Netflix or of of Amazon. Of course, we don't know, but we could try to create for the alternative platforms of VOD or VOD sellers. Then we could suggest something. Of course, we have all algorithms, but we could suggest some things that fits to our sector, fits to our needs. So, of course, yes, everything is possible, and with the data space. But what I am sure about is that we need to have a common tool to help monetize what we own, meaning the data, copyrighted data, and also to invent our future. As far as the data are concerned, the future, meaning that as SMEs, we must be part of the game, and we need to be to have a, as we say in French, cooperative, to cooperate together and to be an interlocutor toward of course, the platforms, the big platforms, but also toward the ministries and the governments and everything. So yes, it is a very good challenge, and we are very excited about the idea of being part of it.
Let me complete. Yes, from the technology point of view, we see data as in the center of digital transformation, and we are seeing it in all industries. And we think that creating this data space brings the opportunity to share data in a governed way. This means that we already are seeing the use of data in many companies. We already see that these companies are sharing this data, and we already see that these companies or some companies are starting to commercialize this data. And we think that this data space and could bring a governed way to impulse to create this market. Okay, and this is bring the first thing is some rules to the market, and this is very important, but also the possibility to play to have new players in this data space, and this boosts this improves the way that the data is being used, and behind that. All these technologies that we already have, such as AI, can work with this data, because at the end of the day, the data is what fits this algorithm and these algorithms, and this is it will continue being important in this digital transformation.
Okay, thank you, Mariano. Verena, you want to add something on the?
I think it was addressed. I would stress it a little bit. I think we have to come up with new business models around this data topic, and I think we have to be very clear what we mean by data. I love this approach from Francesco in the intro, because as a media industry, I think we have to talk about two kinds of data. One of the data is the metadata, that describes the content, but the content is also in some ways data. And I think this is something we are not so familiar with, because content is our core product, it's our core mission, it's our core value. All the information we produce every day, and I think we as media companies and often journalists won't even think about that you can see content as data. So I think we have to come up for solutions for both worlds. There can be done a lot of products around metadata, but we have also developed business models for all those who want to work with our content as data and see them as a data pool. And these are two games and two topics I think we have to address, and this can be done in the metadata space. So it's for this world. Perhaps we find a solution. Okay, then this is the model how the media industry is can collaborate with big tech providers on this content data side. And the metadata side, I think this is for us within our industries, that we can build new products, that we can work together. And we have to find also mechanisms for these bilateral and networks within the media companies itself. And I hope the data space will address both topics from a business focus side.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, I could add the last point or idea. It's a bit vague still, I know, because we are still in the process of finding the real focus points. We know that in Europe, in several countries, there are some kind of first, let's say, conflict lines between private publishers and public TV stations, because both meet in the digital world, which hasn't been there before. So data space could also be a possibility to work together instead of work against each other, and use data to get some profit for both sides. That could be an interesting approach as well. So I'm very glad to have both sides in the call and in the data space idea. Just wanted to add that it's very important.
Thank you. So yeah, Verena, you have 2 questions in the Q&A. Perhaps you can answer them directly, writing. So what would be the first use cases that you think we should implement in the data space, because we need to start with something? So what is really the one that could be quick win and successful if we had a data space? Juliette, you want to start?
Yes. Okay, so well, the first one is the one we are supporting already. The one is TAMIS. TAMIS is a project where there is a common identifier on one work, one film, and all the elements around the work, meaning that the film and the press release and all the technical works and the rushes and everything are put together in a common space. This is very practical project. We need it. So when I'm a sales agent, I have information that has been already done by the cinema distributor, and I have additional information from the producer, and it's all in a common space. This is very practical. Everybody understands in the sector what it is made for, why for. And then, yeah, first thing that I would push is TAMIS, of course, and they are part of the project. And as a matter of fact, what is also needed is to have a better metadata and more precise metadata, because we have a huge challenge with the European works. We need to know where they are from, if they are European or not, if they are in a co-production or not, and so on. So yes, we need to have fully informed metadata on the works, and that would be the second point. And I would add some point on the regulation very, very rapidly. We will have the implementation of the DMA, and I hope that the data space could be an interlocutor toward the Commission for this implementation of the DMA. Just to recall that in the DMA, we have access to aggregated and non-aggregated data from the very large platforms, and it would be very interesting to be one of the interlocutor in the implementation, because the Commission will play a good part of it and is actually working on it. And the second thing is that within the context of the Media Freedom Act that is being negotiated for the moment, there is a provision that says that audience measurement methodology should be provided to the media. It is key, but not also the methodology. We want to have access to audience measurement per se, and also as right holders, so that we have the possibility to understand what's going on with the consumption of our works. And I think that the media data space could play a big role and a good role on that topic as well. That would be the 3 first things I would speak about.
Mariano?
Key use cases. Yes, complementing these use cases, we think that sharing data between parties and all the use cases related with this sharing of data could be interesting. Particular talking about users' behavior and users' data, with of course, taking into account privacy and anonymization and all this kind of things. And other use cases can be related with regarding this data for perhaps personalization recommendation and implementation of algorithms, having this data shared. Analytics also share it with different media companies, okay, and all these derivates of this implementation. Okay.
Martin.
Yeah, I can go on like this a bit more, maybe here and there a bit more specific. I would describe two specific use cases. One could be, just imagine you are a newsroom having limited staff and capacity, and there are 3 national topics maybe. You get the content from your press agencies in your country, and you have to make a decision on which 3 subjects do I put my stuff, which do I really work on or work with. And if a data space could provide some impression how that content performs in other parts of the country, in other houses, other publishers, that could be a very interesting recommendation, just to see like, okay, I would have chosen, let's say, the last speech of my government, and I see no one's interested in that in other companies, so why should I go for that? Maybe I choose another one. Second use case, of course, is, as we discussed in the last weeks, heavily is AI and fake news, fact-checking things. Is there a possibility to, if there is something like the Trump images from last week, the fake images about Trump being arrested, or the Pope in this famous jacket, is there a possibility to somehow go to the data space and check if there is any valid metadata where this is coming from? So if anyone has checked it and can say in the data space, okay, guys, this is a fake, just fingers off. That would be 2 very interesting use cases if we could implement them, at least maybe one of them.
Verena?
Yeah, for us, it's a topic that we want to network on a B2B level, the newsrooms out there first on an Austrian level, but then maybe on a German-speaking level. This is something for us, because I think the most content is shared among these groups. So to have a layer where we can work on this and bring together all the media, the media from news agencies, from publishers, from TV, but also relevant things or posts or blogs from the data sphere that is relevant for the media itself. So we have to be aware that we are not alone out there. So there is a whole crowd out there who are also producing some things, yeah, and who have a potential reach within the countries. And I think we have to be sure that we are wise what they are doing, and how this might be reflected. Because when you think about all these fake pictures out there in the last days, like the Pope or like Trump and so on, this is all things that have arisen in specific networks, be distributed first via social media, and then on the covers of print. So these are the chains that travel, and I think we have to be sure that we also have some glance to what is out there, out there that affects us, and we can get access to this data. Yeah, so this is, I think, thing we want to work on within the data space.
Thank you all. We have 5 minutes left. Perhaps one last question. So what are really the success factor for creating this data space, which is, we know, all a quite ambitious project. So what is really key? What do we need to be careful on?
I'm beginning, sorry. Yes, yeah. I just said just a few words. It is important that it remains a B2B data space for us. Otherwise, we would slip into another idea, meaning that maybe we could be a platform of content, which is not what has been agreed upon at the beginning. And what it is essential to us that we stick to a B2B logic. Also, that it is important, and what is appeal to us on that project is that it's a common tool for bricks of project. So we also must stick to that idea. And also we need to, in the future, think about how will be the governance, in the way that what the question will be is if we bring some new participants, how is it possible to have new people coming, and to what condition? And I'm making reference to all these debates around if Microsoft has to come, or if an American platform wants to come. What do we do, at what condition, and so on. So for me, these are the 3 main points that are key to us to get into the project.
Okay. We are at Hiberus. We have been participating last year in Gaia-X for our industries, such as health or tourism. And from this path, we have learned that it is important to include in this initiative both public and private companies and organizations, and also small and big companies. It's very important to have a bigger spectrum of all the participants, okay? And the second thing is to find and implement concrete use cases to give the attention of all the participants, and that these use cases should be guided by a business case. It's important to keep the attention of all the participants in this initiative, and from this point of view, it's very important that there's this use cases, concrete use cases, has to be led by business.
Yeah, I think the most important aspect is to create a common sense, a common understanding from all different media industries we have, why this is so important, why we have to go for a data space, why we need it. If it is cinema, movies, if it's news publishers, broadcasters, whatever it is, press agencies, and that in the time where, as we said, AI and fake and other threatening challenges coming up, this is the only way to really fight them and make the businesses a bit, well, sustainable, and at the same time protect them from from stepping into traps that are coming up every day now. So, and if we can create a common sense for that, I'm not concerned about bringing in more and more companies and using the data space, but that must be the first step, to give a common sense why we need that.
Yeah, strong business focus. I think this is key, and the value for all the participants must be clear. And everybody, I would like the idea that everybody who's contributing is contributing with value. So everybody, one more, should add some value to the whole thing. Then I think in some way it must be open for researchers at defined rules. So we have to be open on this side. And as this was one of the questions that I was asked, yes, I think there must be a network of data spaces on EU level when it comes to domains that are similar to us, familiar to us, or that are root in the same sources. So if we have the language data space, if we have the cultural heritage data space, we have to be open to these data spaces and network on some language that they can speak together, because a film is a film is a film, we should be able to sort out some way of Babel in the future.
Yeah, that's a key thing of using building blocks that are interoperable and quite standard, and like the one that Gaia-X is going to certify, basically, is being able to bridge different data spaces within our industry at national level, for example, but also with other fields like cultural heritage, language, mobility, automotive, and so on. So, well, thank you all. Thanks a lot for this panel discussion. I think we need to move to the next session now, where we will have some presentation on concrete projects that are taking place now in Europe, and that will again be the first building blocks for the media data space. So let me welcome first Christine from AFP. Christine, you are there already? Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
You will talk about newsroom and fact checking.
Yes, can you hear me at all?
Yes.
Yes, great. Hello, everybody. I'm gonna share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Partager.
Yes, it's coming. It's coming.
Yes,
yeah.
Okay. So Lucille asked me to do a presentation about fact-checking. And what I would like to explain is how now it has completely changed our way of working, which is very, very different from what it used to be a few years ago. So I took the example of Bucha, because it's a characteristic of what happened. So I don't know if you remember exactly how the Bucha news came out. I mean, it was on a Saturday in April last year, just nearly a year ago. And we heard rumors that some massacre had happened in Bucha. And so we went there with the usual team. I mean, the photographer, video, and the text person. And first they see the usual landscape of armored vehicle destroyed, etc. But then they hear there's a specific street in which there are terrible things to see. And so they arrive in this street, Jablonska, and they discover the news we know about. It's a series of corpses down the floor, with some of them tied hands, some of them obviously they had gone to do their errands and got killed in the middle of all that. And so we realized that we are in front of a war crime that's gonna make the headlines around the world as soon as we have sent an alert to our clients. And the thing which has changed is basically that people now know that when they have a news like that to tell about, they're going to be faced with disinformation. And the text person in the team, who is the AFP bureau chief in The Hague, he was sent as a special to Ukraine to help covering it. He knows about wars because he's been in Libya, he's been in Iraq, and he knows about what documenting means because he's in The Hague and he's following the ICC. So he wrote in a blog later, we knew too how too fast this information campaign about such incidents can spread. And later, so it proved, and how important it was to get everything right. So how does the team work? They go beyond the usual reporter's task. They have become aware that their testimony only will not be enough to fight false assertion. And so while photo and video take images adapted to their clients' needs, then he takes pictures of every single victim with its smartphone and its position in the street and document the state of the bodies. And why does he do that? Because he knows that this is going to happen. The day after, the Russian Defense Ministry claims on its Telegram feed that it's a stage event, that with actors lying down and proof They are actors, basically, and the proof of that is that some bodies are seen moving in a video. So then we need the fact checkers to go into action. Is this right or not? And as a previous speaker was saying, I mean, we don't need to say only it's fake. We need to say why it's fake and what is the truth. So it's a daily work now we have to confront virtual world and the real world in an era where truth hasn't got the same credentials as before and is not believed by a lot of people. So how do we do that? And this is the fact checkers' work, to look at the sequence in a higher quality footage. And, you know, there's 24 frames in a second in a video. So they look at each frame and they can work out that the moving object is actually a droplet of rain on the window of a car from which it's filmed. So it's not an arm moving, it's a droplet of rain. They match satellite images and AFP photographs taken by Danny. All the photograph he has taken are going to help understand if these satellite images that they are seeing are credible, if everything is right. And they see that these sat images, which have been taken mid-March, so 2 weeks before they went there, are matching with the position of the bodies that Danny could see and take pictures of with his phone. They see that the position of the bodies match, and they see that the condition of the bodies match also with what he has seen. So, in fact, they call the AFP team in Bucha. They work with their own material and Danny's material on the ground. And so we can prove what we say. We say that saying it's fake is not enough. We must make sure that the tools of the fact checkers and the tools of a journalist on the ground are saying the same stories. And they use some unpublished photos taken by Danny on the day of a discovery. And we do that every day. I mean, it's I could mention other examples, but it would take too much time. It's basically what we see is that it's a combination of reporter on the ground and fact checkers, which help us find the truth. And what we see also is that we have to document every single fact. It's become essential. For Bucha, for example, we went as far as investigating each victim of Jabłonka Street. They are not actors, they are real people. These are the real people who got killed. And we interviewed their families. So the way we work has changed because this information. And it's because of that also that it's so important to have fact-checking within the media data space, because it's become a key element of our work. And things have fundamentally changed with this information campaign. And so I explained all this already, but it's a combination of both, which is key. And this is just your knowledge, what AFP does all around the world, because while this figure is already outdated, I must say, it's now 140 journalists. And it's in 87 countries, because in the last month we added more journalists and more countries, and we are now in 25 languages. So, so this is why basically it is so important to have a use case on fact-checking, because fact-checking is, I mean, some people here know it better than many. It's key now in the media output, in the journalistic work.
Thank you, Christine. So data space to help share trusted information on fact-checking, spread it more, and be sure that it's reliable information. Thank you. So yeah, if you have any question for Christine, just post them in the Q&A, and we can move to the next project, which is about audience data personalization on revenue streams. So let me welcome Christoph Mayer from Schickler. Hello, Christoph.
Hi.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. We're currently in a strange situation where publishers that have high quality content, have large number of newsrooms, editor resources, are not the ones that are winning the race against the large platforms. The large platforms don't have resources, don't have content. They only have large data pools. They have AI experts, cloud resources. And obviously in that digital publishing race, it means more to have large data pools, AI experts, cloud resources to win in that game. And we need to win this in the end. And I think there is one main aspect, and that is a data space. Because with a data space, you can switch the game. You can bring data pools, more resources, etc., to the publishers, for example, to news publishers. And I think that there is a critical piece in the puzzle to actually win against large platforms. And we have one initiative that we always reference to, which is called the Drive project, where we have first experience in a sort of data space, and we see the huge benefits that it brings. It is a project that we are doing together with the colleagues from the APA, with the colleagues from DPA, and together with over 20 regional news publishers in Germany and Austria. And we see that there is a huge benefit of working together, of sharing data, of analyzing data together, because you can mainly do three things that a single publisher cannot do. So first, you can derive a large number of learnings and best practices working together in a data-based way. You can really do deep analytics, deep benchmarking that an individual publisher cannot do to find out where you can get better, which content the users really want, and which content they are willing to pay for at the end. And you can pool resources and pool infrastructure to develop algorithms, for example, for content analysis and personalization, especially for smaller media organizations. That's not possible to do because you don't have the resources, you don't have the comparisons. And we believe that within the TEMS project, we want to develop all this. And we see that there are huge benefits. And I just want to give you some really practical examples so that you get a better feeling for this. For example, this is just a simple benchmarking comparison of the over 20 publishers. I have anonymized them from the Drive project. What you see here is the number of articles a user reads when he visits the digital news portal. And you see that there is a huge difference between the publishers. If you are an individual publisher and don't have that comparison and don't have that data, you will never recognize that you maybe have a huge uplift potential if you are down here and the people that are visiting your portal are reading like maybe one article, and there are other publishers that have mechanisms, product design, algorithms that bring it up to over 1.5. Just a really practical example where you as a media organization can see what is your actual uplift potential through a data space. Give you another really practical example, which is stickiness. Stickiness means if you are reading an article of one of those news portals, what is the probability that you will be staying on the portal afterwards or that you will be leaving? So high stickiness means the probability that you are staying on the portal and reading another article is higher. So that's around on the left here. Low stickiness means that when the users come to your site, read an article, there is a high probability that after reading that article, they just leave the page. So you see that there is huge uplift potential. It's around factor 4 or 5. And you wouldn't know as an individual publisher how you actually compare. And having a data space, having data analytics, having benchmarking comparisons actually makes open that world where you can see where you actually are on that map of possibilities and where you can learn from each other. Give you another simple example. The publishers that we are currently working on are regional news publishers, and we are focusing on digital subscription. So the question is, which content drives users into digital subscriptions, which content holds them into digital subscriptions, and having a common data pool, a data space, enables you to do really fine-grained analysis. For example, you see here comparison between publishers. At which times of the day do the users go into a subscription purchase process? So at which time of the day is the site attractive? Is the user in a mood to actually buy a subscription? Those are two publishers that are not really far away regionally, so there must be quite some difference in the product design, in the structure. And you can learn from each other by finding such anomalies, differences, that one publisher mainly gets their people buying a subscription in the morning and the other more in the afternoon. So what can each of those learn from each other? So maybe that you have two peaks in the morning and in the afternoon. The story goes on if you look into content analytics, and this is more like an issue of developing algorithms and having the resources and financial investments to develop algorithms. As a group, we can share resources and we can pool resources and, for example, develop algorithms for content analytics. You see here, for example, a content structure that we have developed, which we think suits regional publishers quite well. And we have tagged thousands of articles manually. We have developed machine learning models to classify articles. And once you have that as a data space, you can make it available for everyone in the data space. And then you can go into analytics. For example, here is an analysis, which content drives conversions compared to the number of articles that get published in that category. So for this specific publisher, you can analyze that, for example, articles around infrastructure, this is like justice, living, regional companies, that they drive conversions much more and that you can make more of that content. But you wouldn't be able to develop such algorithms on your own when you're just like a smaller regional publisher. But pooling resources, having that in data space gives huge benefits. And those are just like one or two examples what you can do when you bring data together. And those were just examples from news publishers and only from regional news publishers. So you can imagine what the possibilities arrive if you open that up into other dimensions, open that up into other media. And this is what we want to do in the TEMPS project. We have got one work package. It's audience data personalization revenue streams, where we want to do such analytics, bring together different media companies, analyze such data, and develop algorithms, for example, for personalizing the user experience. Think of a regional news publisher that has like a print circulation of like 20,000. It's just a small area. You have an organization of maybe 100 people. You will never be able to do this on your own. But at least we are quite happy that within Europe, a large number of those small organizations still exist, and we need to help them build a sustainable business model, help them do user content analytics personalization, which they cannot do on their own, and learn from each other. I want to give you one number that maybe sticks in your head and gives you an idea why currently those publishers don't have a sustainable digital business model yet. The average time on those news portals that a user stays per day is 7 seconds on average. There's of course a huge spread, so there are also people that just visit the portal and within 3 or 4 seconds you can scroll up and down a little bit and then you leave again. This is like the average user behavior of a user on a news portal, 7 seconds per day. I'm quite sure that you know the usage time behavior of things on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and you know that it's much, much higher. So if we want to have a diversified news ecosystem, we need to help those organizations build a sustainable business model, get their products better, get their content better, get usage better, to bring up those 7 seconds extremely so that they can survive in the digital world. So Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Christoph. Thanks a lot. So yeah, again, if you have any questions for Christoph, just post them on the Q&A. And then we can move to the next presentation, which is from SACEM on collaboration in production chain and digital right management. Melanie, thank you. So I think you're ready, Melanie?
Yes, it's okay. Sorry.
Perfect. Go on.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for the invitation. So I'm Melanie Loubersac. I'm head of audiovisual distribution team at SACEM. And for a few months now, I'm project leader for the SACEM team contribution to Hub Media initiative that I'm quite thrilled to introduce to you this morning. So what is the Hub Media project and who's in? The founding members are France Television, a broadcaster, SACEM, ProCirep, CST, INA, SCAM, and SACD, and we have an ongoing application to BPI France for co-funding. The goal of Hub Media initiative, it's the first consortium which unites broadcasters, producers, CMOs, and foreground players of the audiovisual industry to face the challenges which come from a huge increase of data processing needs. The Hub Media initiative includes a set of projects that meet the overall objective of making the circulation of data more fluid among the many players involved in the value chain. We talked about interoperability. It's a key point of this project, and we also want to offer a generic identification of works, control, monitoring services to inspire confidence and encourage the greatest number of people to join. And we will also be very attentive to fit the Gaia-X specifications, and we are trying to monitor other European initiatives to identify complementarities. So here is the ecosystem of audiovisual industry in France, and I assume it's not so different in your countries. So we can see that there is a large number of actors, and they multiply each decade. We have broadcast media, professional organizations, producers, industry partners, right holders, collective management organizations, and institutions. So just to give you a few examples in the French markets, we currently have more than 70 video services available, and none of them existed a few years ago. And the number of broadcasters and distributors that industry players must interact with to obtain broadcast metadata has increased rapidly those years. And another very interesting figure is the number of production companies. It triples since 2000, and there is no more than 4,500 of them in France. This already very fragmented sector has seen its number of players increase, so more contributors, more contents, more fragmented environment, and more data processing. So we have an explosion, we face an explosion of metadata, and in this context, proper management of those data is a key issue for the industry. You can see here that we identify key challenges around metadata and obstacles. So in the key challenges, we have to ensure the availability of metadata on audiovisual content and deal with interoperability when it is exchanged. We have to optimize the referencing of cultural work to increase their discoverability and to facilitate the monitoring of uses, guaranteeing the fairest remuneration to right holders and combating piracy. We also have to improve operational efficiency in the management of documentation and metadata, and we need standards to process it. We also have to ensure the sector's self-determination, and we have to face the major global digital players. So what are the obstacles? Poor standardization of the format used. Information is scattered and complex and implemented management. We have difficulties to identify audiovisual content, poor metadata quality, lack of transparency, and the cost is also a burden. So what is the value of the Hub Media project? We have 4 pillars in this project. First, the streamlined access to metadata. So we want to propose a framework based on directories to avoid creating metadata several times. We also want to guarantee the traceability and interoperability of metadata thanks to a unique identifier per work. And we choose SACEM, which is a European AV ID. And we want to provide an access to a full range of metadata through the participation of a maximum number of actors in the industry. We also want to turn an irritant to added value. Today, providing the usage report to CMOs is a legal obligation, but we identify ways to fulfill this obligation and generate value from it. We believe that we can enhance the value of audiovisual content if we improve their discoverability thanks to better data management. And this initiative is also an opportunity to reinforce a sustained commitment between various stakeholders. And it's a way to better face international competitive challenges. And last but not least, we also want to ensure a secure access to data. This is a key point of the proposal. No data lake, less centralization as possible, but shared references in directories. That's the goal of this project and the core proposal of the Hub Media initiative. If we want this project to be a success, we believe that we have to solve the tricky point of sharing data, because one of our founders said that data is, in a way, the new oil of our industry. But if it has to be shared, it's not an option to be given to everyone. So each member or client of our solutions must be able to choose what he wants to share, with whom, when, and for what purpose. And to deal with these challenges, we are looking at existing data exchanges platform solutions such as Gaia-X, and we are also merging with the TAMIS project to take into account recommendations regarding technical solutions such as the solid stacks. I think that it was quite a subject for you those past few months. So we also want to be compatible with Gaia-X, and we think that the Hub Media initiative has to target a full compliance with Gaia initiatives. We want to use cloud services. We want to foster short circuit solutions, and we will be very attentive to open source solutions too. We are making the choice of decentralization, and we will, of course, offer digital security. The initiative, the Hub Media initiative, is part of the July white paper published by Gaia-X France, and the project is also quoted in the TAMS project. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Melanie. Perfectly on time. Interesting project coming. In France, if you have any question for Melanie, you can post them on the Q&A. And let's move to the fourth project, which is about 3D virtual production and innovation. Kristoffer from MCB Norway, welcome.
Thank you very much. Let's see, I will share my screen. There we go. Okay, I think you can see it now.
Yes, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, good. So thank you so much for the introduction. And hello, my name is Kristoffer. I work at Media City Bergen, which is the Norwegian media cluster. So we have just over 100 members across Norway, ranging from broadcasters and publishers, content producers, media technology companies, research and education, investors and consultancies, and so on. And the reason for saying that is that with this ecosystem that we have here and our network in Europe, we have taken the role to work on the pilots of a new media formats for the TAMS project. And as you would in such circumstances where you facilitated the piloting, I will be presenting you a project that is not our own, but from our network and our good partners at the VRT and YLE, together with the Broadcasting Center Europe. It's the production of virtual humans. So a bit about the challenge. The production of a realistic humans or virtual reality humans is something that's important at this moment, and to find ways where multiple contributors can work with the same standards and create something that is lifelike has been the ambition of the project. So this is something that therefore was picked up by YLE, the Finnish state broadcaster, together with VRT, which is the Flemish-speaking Belgian public broadcaster, and the Broadcasting Center Europe. The project came about in the framework of the Future Media Hubs, which comprises more than 40 media organizations across Europe, all focused on innovation in the space of video production, gaming, startup community, and journalism. And Stars for Media, which is a European funded project that I think many will know, gave the support to this project. So it started with the creation of avatars, or the lifelike humans that needed to be produced in a way that was cost efficient and in a way that also allowed others to work towards the same standards, so that if you have a decentralized production, then multiple entities can work towards the same output. The concept was that there would be two humans meeting like this on Teams or Zoom or other digital meetings, and they would want to meet in reality, or as in their reality, that will be in the metaverse. So the challenge was to create the meta humans, have facial expressions and lifelike expressions and movements, and also one of the particular challenges was to have hand tracking of the two individuals that were created, and this was then put together with the help of avatars created by humans, or based on humans, placed in an environment that was realistic and controlled, or the movements of the meta-humans were controlled either pre-rendered or live, as we'll see in a few moments. And then this would then be placed in Unreal Engine to give the impression of a realistic meeting of the two avatars. So the what was of essence was to have a production that was not overly complicated, without the need for suits, but rather be relying on cameras to capture the movements of the avatars. And then with the Unreal Engine, this was possible to be placed in a realistic environment. So the result was these two that met for real in the metaverse as part of the project, and this is gives you an impression of how they were controlled. So it was based on phones to detect the movements, and they could either be pre-rendered or live on screen. And the use of the webcam animation allowed it to avoid the expensive suits, but it did require lots of light and a clear background that allowed for the capturing of the movements of the avatars. And some of the learnings from this project, avoiding the use of suits, was that it was a low budget setup when once it was developed and not restricted by any means by location, which is important, as I said earlier on, where you could have multiple contributors to the same production. What was not successful in this test was the finger tracking was not accurate enough. So if you would have a big budget, the mocap suit is a good alternative where it's more accurate, but as I said, very expensive. So with the Unreal connection through the NDI and the obvious virtual camera, this was then rendered live, and the results was to great satisfaction of both VRT and YLE, and to the extent they asked me to use this as an example of pilots that we could be conducting in the framework of TEMS. So hopefully that will be that's a bit of inspiration. New media formats is what we would love to see more of in the framework of TEMS and helping to bring you through the pilots. So that's all from me.
Thank you, Kristoffer. And you can see the importance of bringing together different source of data formats, so 3D with a virtual background and things like that. And of course, the data space can help in bridging all these data sources together to create great virtual production. Okay, so I think we are done with the project parts. If you have any questions, again, put them in the Q&A and we can answer them. And let's move to the last presentation of this event. It's from Bernd Fesel. Welcome, Bernd. You are the interim CEO of EIT Culture and Creativity, and you will talk about ecosystemic innovation in trusted media data space.
Yeah, thank you so much for welcoming me. And I'm kind of sad I have to talk now about funding and policy, because listening to those concrete projects is much more exciting. But that's what we hope to empower and to fund. And so let me explain what the EIT Culture and Creativity is about and what is upcoming. I'm just sharing my screen, and then off we go. So screen sharing works, I trust. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So the a European Innovation Agency for Culture and Creative Industries is what is at the heart of the phrase EIT Culture and Creativity. We're just in the startup year 23. We are like a startup, hiring staff, creating our legal structure just next week, and having a lot of balls in parallel in the air. And one of these balls is also providing first funding from the EIT through open calls to the sector, also in this respective field of innovation you have been talking about today. So take a step back. What is the innovation? What is the European Institute of Innovation and Technology? It has been created in 2008 and is a leading European initiative to empower innovators and entrepreneurs close to market to tackle global challenges and to really create impact products, services, markets, and not just another research. So as such, the European Institute of Innovation and Technology is a different funding tool than, for example, Horizon Europe. Since 2008, there has been many innovation communities being created for different sectors and topics like digital, food, health. You see them all here. The principle of the EIT is to bring together companies, universities, research centers, and public authorities, cities, regions, NGOs, into what they call the knowledge triangle. You could also call it the Silicon Valley principle applied to Europe. And as you see here, they generated some 3,000 partners. I think those numbers are even higher up today, still growing day by day, and also growing by the innovation community for our sector, for the cultural creative sectors and industries. And obviously, media, gaming, audiovisual is one of the leading sectors in this bigger framework of culture creative industries, some 15 sectors. This innovation community, which we are building now, which will start really operational in January next year, is a next generation of knowledge innovation communities. It is open and is spending its funding to the whole sector, not only to those 50 partners or 100 partners which are within the organization. So it's very different from what you know from usual Horizon calls, where only those receive basically money which are part of it. You could also understand an innovation community as a cascading funding model, which is inclusive across all those sectors and also types of partners. And you see here not just 3 elements in the knowledge triangle with universities, business, and research, but 5, including obviously cultural organizations like a Centre Pompidou, a museum, public library, and as well civil society and public authorities, a lot of networks to reach out to our fragmented sector, to be able, to cross the code silos and really integrate the sector. And you could also understand this community growing as a data space in itself. And in fact, we will be creating an innovation platform digitally to engage across all those partners. And in a few years, we hope that some 5,000 stakeholders have registered, not only public institutions, but also employees, students. So this is really open also to single innovators and not just the usual suspects. And by this, we hope to really provide new encounters and new business opportunities. Here an overview of the partners who have been part of the application. This is also EBU, the European Broadcasting Union, but many others reaching from the European Cultural Foundation, supporting non-profit activities of culture to bring together European media space, up to games companies. And on the very top right, you see all our partners in the field of research and technology. And with these strong partners, we really hope also to create a strong platform for tech transfer, which is kind of hidden and unused in all those shelves and texts not yet to the market of some 3 million companies in the creative industries. So what are those 3 million companies doing? What is the innovation about? We are supporting here. And it's about really being a game changer for the green, digital, and social transformations. It's not about supporting just the next startup or the next nice to have innovation, but really having a clear focus on especially the green transformations. But obviously, this goes along with the digital divide we have to prevent, but also with the social divide we have to prevent. The sector brings with it some 430 billion euro every year in value added. So it's the second strongest sector in Europe. And it's part of this innovation effort, not just for its own sake to innovate, within itself, but contribute beyond, for example, in the field of health or mobility. Those innovation potentials of our sector are often overseen, and that's why we really want to, unlock the latent values of our sector. Of course, also in this media space. I will give some examples of that in the next minutes. When you support innovation in our sectors, if you think of an artist like Gerhard Richter, or many dancers or other performers, filmmakers or a script writer, he would not announce, look, guys, I have the next innovation which I will take to market. Though such an innovation in the field of Gerhard Richter might cost 50 million euros a piece, still the concept and the wording, the understanding is not this of being part of the European innovation community. So we also have to translate the new opportunities we are offering here the new opportunities which are coming from Horizon Europe into our sector, but it's also a translation the other way around to explain to traditional innovators defined by the OECD from the economic ministries that innovation is now a wider concept and includes not only tech and business-driven innovation, but also artistic innovation, social innovation, and also policy, and especially framework innovation. And that's why I'm so happy to be invited also here, because a lot of what you have been talking about needs also, as you all know, obviously, I'm preaching to the converted, framework innovation. And we will also provide funding, especially to test framework innovation, to create regulatory sandboxes in Europe. I was asked also to give you a wider view on the plannings of the European Commission. And as you might know, the latest attempt is to look and support virtual worlds fit for people. As it said in the European typical language, it is about creating an open, decentralized, that's quite important, trustworthy European and global metaverses in line with the vision of human-centric technology. So while all those words sound nicely, we all know how much work this inclines and needs to be done still. And the European Union is now setting out a whole set of instruments to do so. Many of them will be known to you: the Code of Practice on Disinformation, the European Media and Audiovisual Action Plan. I don't have to explain here, but I want to flag a new initiative which might not be so known, which is part of the new European Innovation Agenda published last year. Here, the European Union starts a working group on innovation-friendly regulation, especially on metaverse. And this working group just started, and I'm happy to be an associated observer here to bring our funding tools and calls along and to synergize here. But this also might relate for the projects you have here, and we are happy, you know, our partner EBU helps us to shape calls to see what the sector, the activities needed are, and to make calls which are really targeted. The business opportunities in this field from the point of the European Union, they did a report on that, on education, healthcare, manufacturing, and engineering, will not come as a surprise. But for now, we also see that cultural heritage, art and design, cultural content in general is seen now as an asset in creating those virtual worlds, and is also part of the strategic agenda, and hopefully then also of funding schemes, still to be debated, still to be advocated for. But at the bottom line, those elements are now integrated in this strategy to support this European and global metaverse the European Union wants to create. There are a lot of regulatory challenges, which you know, and in this European digital single data space, we also want to foresee in the next year calls in innovation of regulation. So please reach out to us if you want to support us and how to set up those calls. Just to remind you, on the one hand, the KIC is creating programs with its partner, so you can contribute here. And at the same time, this cannot be a guarantee to win any funding. This is separated by independent juries, but at least it's an aim to have calls which are really short from the market and really close to the needs. And so I hope this is of value to your work. What we especially want to look in is to create use cases and prototypes, as I have heard here some, on new immersive and innovative products for media. And we also want to see into, look into cross-industry coalitions. We're all aware of the VR industry coalition, which has been created. And we see here even more potential to be more cross-value chain, to integrate more content, because just as my, I think the speaker in front of me said, you know, this content is the oil, but it's often missing in those cross-sectorial coalitions. And hopefully with this innovation community, we can be a platform to access those content makers. As we all know, they are highly fragmented and scattered, and so it's difficult to deliver this promise. Besides looking into prototypes, this innovation community is also creating an investment club and a special targeted investment funds for this area. We're here aligning, of course, with Media Invest, with the EBI and others, what to invest in, but we see our, you know, remit and our scope foremost to reach new investors from the private capital market, to increase the image of the creative industries as an attractive and not as a risky market to invest in. And for now, you know, we just started a few weeks ago. We have 10 investors in our club, which unite already some 8 billion euros of investment. But of course, now it's about teaching them and educating where to spend it. And there again, we need input from you, from others, to prepare good proposals and deal flows. And all this will start operationally next year. But, you know, setting up an investment fund takes a year. And we are proud to say that we have won first commercial banks already, pledging substantial amounts. So we are positive that besides European funding, we will also create a private funding stream to support this endeavor of use cases and new media products for the metaverse in those trusted media spaces. And speaking of those media spaces, this trust, this regulation topic needs also policy innovation. And we drive this as a system change as well, not just supporting once in a while a policy regulation, but we're making this a flagship project with a policy club where we unite policymakers and also harvest their ideas again, listening and then creating out of this funding tools. This will start in June this year. There will be also a public call. So in case you know policymakers who are looking for support to test and dare, yeah, please recommend us. Last but not least, the metaverse content, all those new worlds now emerging. We see them as, you know, the meeting of art, technology, and society, as we have experienced this in the Renaissance. Of course, on different topics with different structures, but still it's again this magic moment where new worlds are being created by this mix of science and culture, of art and technology. I was just at the weekend at the ZKM in Karlsruhe, where a Renaissance exhibition has been opened. And this exhibition will go on tour and is for us an early bird activity. Again, a pilot to see if we can somehow tell those stories, which are so complex and which are told in this special language, you know, of cultural managers, innovation managers, basically told in a bubble of experts. How can we take all this knowledge and making of new worlds also to the audience, to really citizens and customers, to clients? And we believe we need a more popular narrative, also told outside of research, outside of companies, and outside of universities. And by this, we hope that libraries and museums, exhibitions can be a way to tell this narrative much more popular to our stakeholders. So this is our vision of taking this topic outside of our bubble of innovators, really to hundreds of millions of visitors, and develop here early bird activities with strategic partners for those media spaces. And I know the Gaia-X is also keen to develop sectorial data spaces, and we are here as well to feed in and to contribute what we can contribute. We have partners in this field of cultural heritage, reaching several thousands of cultural heritage institutions in the field of design and media as well. So we hope we can be a partner and help you to reach those games and aims here of Gaia-X. So thanks for your attention, and I hope I could give you a glimpse of our startup coming up.
Thanks a lot, Bernd. Very clear. Thank you for covering also the European Commission view. If you have any questions for Bernd, you can post them in the Q&A. For now, I don't see any questions. There are a few minutes ahead, so that's fine. Thank you, Bernd. Thanks a lot. So, yeah, perhaps we can wrap up a bit all these discussions we had, all these presentations. So we saw that there are many challenges, of course, in the media with AI, with the cost of digitalization, with new regulations coming, the competition from big platforms, the lack of visibility we have on our audience. So yeah, I think we can all conclude that data and collaboration is key today for our sector. And so there are huge expectations for data space today to help solve all this issue, and we are working on that. We saw that there are many projects ongoing in various fields, from news, analytics, collaboration in the production chain, making new formats merged together for virtual productions, and so on. So yeah, the goal of the data space is really to federate those projects, to ease the development of these projects by providing some key trust, some key blocks that could ensure trust, transparency, interoperability, and so on. So I think we covered quite a lot of things. So I would like to thank a lot all the speakers for sharing with us their insights. And let's discuss again on all these topics. Hopefully we'll have some news on the proposal we submitted in May from the European Commission. So yeah, let's talk about all that again in the coming weeks. And with that, I hand over to Youngmi from Gaia-X.
Thank you, Lucille. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today and participating in this informative and engaging webinar on media data space. We really appreciate your active participation in the discussion and the questions you posed, which helped to make this webinar a success. Before we wrap up, I would like to remind you that the recording of this webinar will be available on our website, so you can revisit the content or share it with others who might find it helpful. We will also want to express our gratitude to our speakers for sharing their time, knowledge, and expertise. Your contribution have made this webinar a valuable and thought-provoking experience for all of us. Finally, we look forward to seeing you at our next Gaia-X events, notably on our on-site TechX hackathon in Bilbao on the 3rd and 4th of May. And please pencil in the next iteration of the data space will be on the 27th of June with a highlight on public sector.